Good morning, everybody. It's Brenda Stir. Welcome to the suite. And we are this morning, it is 8 o'clock in Phoenix. And this morning, we're doing a little bit of wild abundance today. We're continuing our series and we're talking with all of my friends who are here on the cover. If you have not heard the news, me and 17 of my friends, we wrote a book, like a real life big girl grown up book, like a real book. And it launched back in December. And it's called Wild Abundance, How to Live and I Get to Life. And I invited 17 of my friends to contribute their own story to this book. This is the bookend to my 2 years of cancer, grief, my mother dying, trauma, becoming the caregiver for my father, all these things. And this was the bookend to closing that chapter for me. And stepping back into abundance of what an I get to life looks like. The opposite of an I get to life is an I have to life. I have to do these things. I'm obligated. And I get to life is a life of opportunity and purpose and trust, not obligation and guilt. So our goal and my goal is I'm chatting with all my friends to hear their story and how they are living their best life. So today we are talking with, where is she on my cover? There she is. My friend Amy Cate. She's right there. Look how gorgeous she is. We're talking with my friend Amy. She lives in Ohio. I met her. Actually, you know what? Let's just bring her up and talk to her. And we'll talk about how we met. We met what feels like 1,000 years ago. Hey, girl, hey. Welcome. Hey. I realized when I woke up and I texted you, you were probably like, Brenda, it's like 10:30 in the morning. What are you doing? Why are you still in bed? And I was like, well, it's only 7:30 in Phoenix.
No, I remembered. I know.
So we met when you were the head of sales or field development at a direct sales company.
Yeah.
And I was doing some consulting with that company. That's when we first met. And you're not there anymore. You left years ago. But we've stayed connected ever since. So tell us a little bit about you and your background and introduce yourself to everybody.
Yeah. Well, hi, everybody. I'm Amy Cate. Yes, Brenda, it was a hot minute ago that we were working together. I just remember you were like a force of energy. I mean, just to kind of back up a little bit, I had interviewed quite a few trainers and different, field leaders and people that could potentially speak to our field. And I just remember walking away from our conversation going, that woman is a force to be reckoned with. And I liked you instantaneously, which I feel like is always a good sign. But yeah, just a little bit about me. I mean, trying to sum this up in a few words. But
I know. Give me two sentences.
2 sentences before 11:30.
Give me 2 paragraphs.
I am a coach, a writer. I do a little bit of speaking. I've done a lot with direct sales and my previous company where that was in regards. And yeah, so currently I'm working in our family businesses. My husband is an entrepreneur and we do a lot, a very diverse background. I used to tell, or I still kind of mention to some of my friends when they'll say, well, so what do you and your husband do? I'm like, do you have a minute? Because it's kind of complicated and our life doesn't really make sense. He runs 2 family businesses and then we also own a business in Florida. And then on top of that, I run my coaching business. So kind of all over, but life is good. Life is a little busy and full, but it's good.
Wow, that's amazing. You are busy. So the reason I invited you to be a part of the book was because having been friends with you for years, going back to direct sales, and then you left that company, you went independent, and I watched that transition happen for you. I saw you sort of shift through that season of your life. And I thought there was a lot of I get to opportunity story to be told in there, right? So that was why I invited you to be part of our anthology. So the goal, the reason for this book, this is not necessarily the typical book. People will be like, oh yeah, Brenda wrote a book about social marketing, right? This wasn't that book at all. This wasn't that at all. This was 100% about mindset. This is about choosing to live in your best life, to choosing to step into opportunity and gratitude. Because and I get to life is one that lives in abundance, right? It's not scarcity. It's not holding on up to something out of fear. It's choosing to live in your best space. And your story starts on page 83, over here in chapter 8. I get to live a life I love. And I want to introduce it, and I'm going to ask you to share your story. One of the things you start you wait your story where you start with your wake up call is you walk into your bedroom and you see this sign that says, "And so together they built a life they loved." I have that exact same sign.
I love
Literally
that.
the exact same sign. I'll text you a picture of it later today because I have the exact same sign. There in our bedroom, we have a collage wall and big family photo wall, like next to the bed. And right at the very top is the sign that says, "And so together they built a life they love." And here's all the pictures. So reading that, I was immediately like, every woman has that sign in her house.
For sure.
Every
Everyone
woman
loves
has
Hobby Lobby, right?
right, every woman has the sign from Hobby Lobby. Everyone. So it's very true that are you standing in the life that you truly love? Are you choosing to make the choices every day that allow you to live in the life you love? Because I'm literally have the exact same sign. I wish I had a picture of it on my phone. And when I read that, I was like, damn, that is a hook, man, because I have the same one.
Mm.
So how do we as women, and this is really the story I would love for you to hear from you, is what was your story where you realized you weren't standing in the life you love? And so together they built a life they loved. And what was the transition and pivot for you that brought you back there?
Yeah, I think that's such a good question. And the reality is I've had probably 10 of, more than 10 of those moments, those pivotal moments. Throughout my journey, the last 15 years, I think if we're honest as women, the choice to live a life we love, it's not just this choice that we make once and then we're like, oh, we're good to go. It's
Right.
this choice that we have to continually make because the reality is the world is designed to pull us into robot mode.
Mhm.
The world is designed to crowd out our life and fill our head with busy, so we have to just make really intentional choices so that we are actually designing a life that we want to live. And I think so many women can relate to my story simply because of the fact that I think it's very natural for us to want to go with the flow and just keep pushing. You know what I mean? Like, and I talk a little bit in there about striving versus stewarding. And I think a lot of, women, including myself, we're tempted to just stay on autopilot because let's be honest, it's a little bit easier. It's a little bit easier than actually sitting down and evaluating, am I actually living a life of intention? And that's kind of where I found myself when I had that moment. For those who haven't read the book yet, it was basically like I was done. Like I worked from home. I remember coming out of my home office. I was exhausted at a level that I just can't even describe. And it was not even physical exhaustion. It was just more the mental exhaustion. I think sometimes that comes when you're striving and you're pushing and you're controlling and you're just trying to like make things happen. And I mean, that sign had probably been hanging in my room for like a year and I just never even
Yeah.
noticed it. And it was like I looked up and it was just like, oh my God, what's happening right now? And that just kind of started actually this chain reaction of me really evaluating, okay, am I living from a place of peace or am I living from a place of pressure?
Wow.
One of the girls I listened to, you had another woman on that said something similar. She said, nothing is worth my peace or something along those lines. And I think that's such a valuable lesson because as women, it can be so easy to just run towards the pressure instead of taking the time needed to just stay quiet and actually asking yourself really hard questions so that you can live from that place of intentionality. And that was kind of the pivotal moment for me in making all of that happen.
That's peace versus pressure. My gosh, that is it right there. And you said something right at the very beginning. You said it's not making a decision once, it's choosing
Right.
continually, right? And that's, I think, the hardest thing because as women who have families and jobs and pressure and expectations and keeping up with the neighbors and doing all the things that look like the thing to do, it's incredibly pressure. It's
Yeah.
incredibly high pressure when versus finding the balance between what you truly want,
Mm-hmm.
the life you truly want to live in being in the moment, not simply striving for the next thing and then missing it all, right? Um,
Yeah.
my husband and I it's actually tattooed on my foot, it's tattooed on his leg. We have a little phrase called in the moment,
Oh,
IPM. And it's this reminder to be present, to be like when the kids are doing something endearing, when we're on a vacation, when we're in the moment of this is why we built all this. Right now, this is what we're working for. This is the moment that we wanted. This is what we've been striving for. And it's really easy to miss those things. It's really easy to focus on the pressure versus the purpose.
Yeah.
It's so easy to miss them when you look back and you're like, and you said this in your chapter where you end up in auto mode and you're going through it and you want to get home and you're like, how did I get here? We've all had that happen, right? Your brain like floats away and you're driving or you're in the middle of something and you're like, how did I get here and not kill myself on the road, right? Because you don't remember driving home. And it's so easy to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
And the goal of trying to stay in purpose and intention and in the moment of living that life, making the choices along the way that allow you to be in the moment to enjoy the life you built, right, is so freaking hard.
Yeah.
And I don't think enough people talk about how hard it is.
Yeah.
That living in that space all the time where you truly are here.
Yeah.
Is really, really hard.
Well, and I think it's because if we're being honest, it's a different kind of pressure. You know, I was literally just talking to a friend of mine and I was like, here's the reality is that basically, and this is said all over, you know, all the inspirational quotes. So it's not that this is a new thing, but it's like life is just a series of choices of choosing your hard. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of pressure to be on autopilot and just kind of go through the motions and be in cycles of control than it is to be intentional and actually try to craft a life you love. They're both hard. You're just choosing the hard that's actually
choosing your hard.
Where you want to go, right?
Exactly right. Yep.
Yep.
Now, the other thing you did in your chapter, and you're only one of two people that did, is you layered on your faith in quite a bit of depth. And I'd love for you to talk about that.
Well, you know, honestly, for me, it's every piece of what I have to say. You know, one of the things on my that I keep in my desk in my office is I want every woman to know that her voice can change the world. Well, the reality is that long before I started telling women that their voice could change the world, I had to believe that my voice could change the world. And, you know, if you had seen a picture of me, gosh, 15 years ago, you would not recognize me because I was shy. I was very introverted. I was, you know, the girl in the corner that was just trying not to make any waves and put any attention on herself. And the only reason that I feel like I'm really confident and can stand in who I am right now is because of Jesus. And I'm just not afraid to admit that, you know, so for me, every piece of what I do when I do identity work, whether it's through coaching and ministering to women one-on-one or through retreats or speaking or anything, it all comes back to identity in Jesus and who he's created us to be. So for me, that's literally in my DNA. I don't know how to teach apart from that. And so, because that's so much of what has shaped my story and shaped my confidence, and really so much of what got me to that pivotal moment and gave me the courage to choose a different path. You know, the Amy, you know, 15 years ago wouldn't have had that courage had it not been for the identity work that I did. And just knowing that I'm a uniquely crafted human being in Christ and I have value and I have worth apart from what I do.
Well, because the first thing, when I first asked you to write the chapter and you said, am I allowed to write about my faith?
Yeah.
I was like, how could you not?
Which I appreciate because I was like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to take this out, you know?
Right. So that's truly where your I get to life lives, right? When you stand in that truth, that identity. It might not be everybody's, but if it's yours, it needs to be shared. That's what a wild abundance looks like. How could I tell you no? That would be like, no, please shut down half of yourself. Thank
you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
So what do you hope women get out of your chapter? What do you hope they read and they take away and they say, that really inspired me to take action?
You know, it really comes down to, I think one of the things that I'm very passionate about helping women do is just, and I say this in the chapter too, is just kind of cutting through the noise of life and getting to maybe one point of clarity. You know, I think that God drops moments in our path that provide those, right? That I get to sign, or not I get to sign, but the Living a Life They Love, that was my pivotal moment, that he dropped in my lap to kind of bring some reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I really just would love for women to maybe get a vision beyond where they're currently at. I think that a lot of times, like I said, we can get so caught up in the everyday that we don't actually stop to ask ourselves if the everyday is actually where we want to be. It's not that we don't have, you said this in the beginning, it's not that we don't have obligations. It's not that we don't have things that, we need to do, but living an I get to life is really understanding that the core pieces of my life, right, the things that actually light me on fire and, produce that drive and ambition and passion in me are being fostered. They're being attended to. They're not being ignored.
It's things you're choosing.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think I am a type A doer if you ever saw one. And I think sometimes whether you're driven, naturally in your personality or not, I think it can be very easy, like I said, just to kind of get into cycles of where your vision is just a little cloudy. And I think going back to a lot of what you opened up with, I think it's not that. What did you say you have tattooed? Be in the moment.
Oh yeah, it's on my foot. I'll show you.
Yeah.
It's why not?
Show me your foot.
Right down here. It looks like it's a little string of letters. It says ILY, one team, plus Leah plus Jack. So it's ILY, one T plus L plus J, and then ITM in the moment. So our family phrase is one team. We operate as a unit, and then being in the moment is our goal, to be present, to be in the moment of, this is why we did all this. This is why we work so hard. Right. This is why we strive, because this is the moment we want to live and love and appreciate. Live, laugh, love, right?
Right. Live, laugh, love on everything, right?
Right, well, exactly.
I don't think you can live in the moment unless you have a clear vision on what getting to the place of living in the moment is. You and your husband have been wildly intentional in building a life where you have the freedom to do those things so that you can live in the moment. And I think if I want some woman to take it away, I really would love for them to take away, like, what does a life you love look like? And what is maybe one thing, not 25 things, not, a stack of self-help books and 42 conferences and 18, things that you've got to go, but just what is one thing that maybe you can do today that is going to help build that for you? It doesn't have to be complicated,
Not at all. And one of the things we talk about in the book continually, and every single woman wove into her chapter, is the very small moments of choosing the language, that you're choosing language throughout your day that are all based in gratitude. Like, I get to do this thing. I have to make dinner for my kids versus I get to nourish my family. I get to do this because I strived. The Brenda in my 20s would look at the Brenda in my 50s and go, oh my God, are you lucky? Look at the life you built. You are so, because in my 20s, I was afraid I'd never get married. I'd never have kids. And now I've got this life that I could only have. 20-year-old Brenda could only have sat back and went, oh my gosh, look what you did. Look what you built. You have achieved your goal. So when you shift that tiny little piece of gratitude into every part of your day, for me, it was coming out the other side of cancer and 2024 and my year of trauma, and coming out of it and saying, I'm still here. My family is tighter than ever because we went through this fire together. My relationship with my kids, my husband, my health. I prioritized my health. Cancer has a funny way of saying, maybe you should take care of yourself. And to your point, that pivotal moment of, I got cancer twice. Like, the first one wasn't enough of a lightning strike. The second one was like, you're not listening, Brenda. Pay attention. You're not, your family and your life isn't in alignment. Get clear. I'm going to shock you down, and it's going to be really, really horrible all at one time. But trust me, and maybe this is the God story, right? Trust the plan that you will come out of this stronger. Right. You will come out of this better. You will come out of this with such clarity of the life that you are here to build for yourself, your family, and your community, that this is what came out of it. And this never would have happened had I not gotten cancer. My mother died, and 2024 was a bad year. But 2025 was better and 2026 is fantastic because I was so out of alignment and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
Right? You don't know it because you're just in it. You're in the grind and you're just grinding through it. And until something pivotal happens and you're like, what am I doing? I have to burn it down. I have to fix all this. And that's what happened to me. And that's where the book came from. And so your story perhaps wasn't as, burn it all down as cancer and trauma and death, but it certainly was your own version of rebuilding and refocusing and recentering, getting yourself back to where you're in alignment with what you want your life to be. The women in this story, the women in the book, all tell different stories, right? There's some of trauma, there's some of career rebuilding, there's some of family, there's some of divorce and finding their identity after personal relationship trauma. There's so many different versions of what does living and I get to life look like and how you step into that choice, because it truly is a choice, right? It's the choice to be grateful, to look at something as purpose, to look at something as abundance, to look at something as I'm grateful that I get to make this decision today, that I get to serve my family and steward these choices for myself. This is what living and I get to life looks like. And I think the key takeaway from our chat today is that it's continual and it's not easy.
Yeah, it's continual. And I think too, sometimes, especially when we're younger, kind of like going back to what you were saying was Brenda in her 20s versus Brenda in her 50s. I think we just need to give ourselves permission to let our picture be updated. For me, I think part of the reason that I found myself there was because I built the life that I thought I was going to love, you know what I mean, in that particular scenario that I crafted for myself. And then once I got there, it was like, I actually don't love this. This actually is not aligning with who I am, in my late 30s. And I have to give myself permission to do something different. Because the picture just doesn't stay the same. It's not like we can just, build, one version of what we think life is going to be and just stay there forever.
Isn't that's it. That's right. Especially when you get to the top of the mountain, you're looking around going, I thought it would be different. This is what I thought it was going to be. And then you're like, can I choose something else? Can I climb a different mountain?
I know, right?
Yes, you can, right? Yep. That's really hard because if you put so much time and effort, there's almost a sunk cost fallacy of like, but this is what I told everybody I wanted, right? I've invested so much time to get here.
Right.
It's whether it's somebody who, true story. I have a friend who went to law school and has immense amount of law school debt, got out of it, got her job. And she's like, I really hate being a lawyer. I feel guilty about telling everyone that because I invested so much time and effort. And now she's a manager at a Starbucks and she loves it. She has regular hours. She doesn't make as much money, but she's still paying off her debt. But that shift into, right? It's like, I have to stay here because I invested so much time to get here.
Yeah.
Versus that's hard. That's really hard. And it shows up in so many ways. It's like, I've been married for so long. I have to stay married because I've invested so much and I can't walk away. Right. Or I've built this whole career and I can't walk away because this is what I do. This is my identity versus this isn't what makes me happy. There's so many different ways that shows up. And that's it's such an important point. Like you get there and you're like, this isn't kind of what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Change.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because we build our identity around things as opposed to building our identity around just our own self-worth. And so it's so much harder to let go of the thing when that's what you feel like describes you, but the reality is it doesn't. And it's like as soon as the only reason there's a tension is because it's actually not aligned with your identity, even though you've made it your identity. There wouldn't be a tension if you were aligned. And again, going back to that pressure, we just have to ask ourselves, what pressure do we want? The pressure of change, the pressure of I get to, or the pressure of, I'm just kind of doing this because this is what I thought I wanted. And
choose your hard, right? Choose your heart. It's going to be choose the one that's going to bring you the most joy and gratitude and purpose, and truly feeling like you're living in your life from a space of I get to. So, you guys, if you're watching and you haven't grabbed the book yet, it's called Wild Abundance. It's on Amazon. This is the link if you haven't seen it yet. And it's 18 stories of women choosing to step through something difficult in their own life, whatever it is. Some are very, very, some are quite sad. Some are inspirational. Some are rooted in careers, family, relationships, self-identity, medical trauma, death of partners and family members. There's a lot of really, really interesting stories here, but every single woman in this book came out the other side of it with a different perspective of abundance and opportunity and growth. And how do we walk through these things as women, adult women, to be able to stand on the other side and say, that trauma made me a better person. That trauma, that pivotal moment, that transformational moment made me more reflective. It made me choose gratitude, and it made me step into something that I get to make a bigger purpose. That's what this goal is. And it's, like I said, it's perhaps not the book that anybody would have expected to fall out of me, but it is the book that I think I needed. Right. Yeah. And once I got going, it all happened kind of quickly. It was like it all happened at once. There was a lot of trauma, what's the word I'm looking for? There was a lot of churn trying to get it going. But then once it was like, there's the book all at one time. It like showed up fully formed. And every story in it is so compelling and so interesting. And I think the common thread, the invisible thread of it all, is that we're all doing our best, making our choices in the moment, in the day. And every single one of us is trying to live a life of intention. It's just how we get there and in our day. So, Amy, thank you so much for joining me. This was an absolute pleasure to chat with you. Where can people find you if they want to follow up with you? Where can they find you? How can they connect with you? It's in the book, obviously. It's right here on page 83, you guys, chapter 8. I Get to Live a Life I Love with Amy Cate. Where can they find you if they want to connect with you?
I think the easiest way is just on Instagram, Amy Cate K, Kate with a C. And then I also am doing some things on Substack. I had to take a pause at the beginning of the year. And I'm going to be getting back into that. I actually have a post going live today. And so I share a little bit of just devotionals, teachings, things that I'm learning. I bring people along on the journey with me. Lord knows I'm not an expert, but I'm just a girl who's willing to show up and tell her story.
That's it, right? I'm not an expert either, but I am willing to show up. I am willing to show up. That I think might be the quote of the day. Not an expert, but I'm willing to show up. And that's all we can ask, right? Is keep on showing up for your best self, the best value you can bring to your community, and trying to live a life of intention and purpose. So thank you so much for joining me this morning. Everybody, thanks so much for joining us. If you watched either live or on the replay, we are still working our way through our authors. We've chatted with several. We're going to see if I can't go hunt down the rest and get the rest of them up here. Because not because I want to sell books, but because I want you to hear their stories. I want you to hear how different women are choosing to make the decision every day to live an I Get to life and what that looks like for them. And hopefully you can find some inspiration and motivation in their story. All right, guys, thanks so much for joining us. Grab the book on Amazon if you haven't yet. And Amy, we'll see you soon, love. I see it.
Thanks, everybody.